Hello, everyone. Welcome to Health Talk Tuesday. And today we're going to be discussing motivating patients to adherence, talking about supplementation beyond the diagnosis. My name is Dr. Deidre Mason. I am the Director of Nutrimetrics and Clinical Education. The whole goal here is to up our game in dialoguing with patients. We obviously know that some of our most adherent or compliant patients are the ones that are uncomfortable, where the pain point is great enough that they're willing to do what? Anything. And the thing that we need to do is help them learn to move the needle so they start talking instead about how to stay healthy. Instead of falling horizontal, let's start changing the script where we talk about the steps that you're going to need to take to stay vertical. And this means focusing on diet, lifestyle habits like a sleep routine, stress management, introducing some self-care, and most definitely some natural movement or physical fitness. All of these things are graded. All of these things are scalable. All of these things are customizable. We're going to personalize a program for the patient. But let's take a step back. Let's talk about the pain patient, not the patient that's in pain, but the one that has a pain, something that they want to see changed in their life, because they are going to be one of your more motivated patients. This topic or question comes up when they have achieved some level of success. We have helped them move from a place of pain into a place of comfort, but not always a place of optimal health or energy. And this is where it starts to get gray. Am I right? Where we start to see patients say, I'm doing as well as I was before, but don't realize how quickly they could slip right back into whatever we're going to define as the pain. Maybe it's elevated blood sugar, elevated cholesterol. Maybe they are, in fact, in pain, and now you've helped them get out of that pain, but they haven't changed anything about their lifestyle. What we're looking to do is get our patients to understand that supplementation has a role in prevention as much as it has a role in intervention. So we want to talk about why these products are different, whether it's superior delivery, comprehensive synergistic formulations, but ultimately the fact I want you to focus on is that they're customizable, that we can put these things together based on your unique needs. This does two things. It builds value to the product because they understand that they were put together, combined by their healthcare provider. It also creates a space where they have to come back to you or to your web portal to make sure that they're able to get those unique products. Now, you can up the game just one step more by creating custom cocktails for your patients. Those are created just for them by you. And that's the topic that we're going to be going over in future modules. How to really up your game by using customized nutrition and GeneSNP DNA analysis. But right now, what we're looking to do is not run before we walk. Instead, we're looking to move that patient from a place of, okay, my blood pressures are in healthy ranges now, to what are the other steps you're willing to take or commit to keep your blood pressure within healthy ranges. Today, I want to answer that question. What do you say to the patient that says, am I always going to have to be on this supplementation? Or that dreaded, when do I get to stop? Or how long is this going to take? When will I start feeling results, right? These are all things we need to be prepared for. And if we work with a staff, we need to help them be prepared to answer. And that's the purpose of this module, to get the patients to also understand what we know about the Nutrimetrics quality product line. Better delivery means better compliance. It also means when results matter, you're very thoughtful about your choices. And that's why you have chosen Nutrimetrics, and we're asking them to choose Nutrimetrics. By and large, when we see patients that are not adherent, it's because they haven't seen the results, right? We have seen patients that struggle with identifying or defining for themselves what is health. Many individuals will define health as being away from their pain point. They'll define health as I don't have a diagnosis, but they don't appreciate that 97% of us are running around in a state of sub-health, itchy, watery eyes, prone to allergic rhinitis, maybe prone to a little bit of elevated blood pressure or blood glucose, but isn't that normal for a person my age? Joint pain, right? Waking up from a good night's sleep and not feeling very refreshed. And we look around, or your patients look around and say, well, isn't that normal? Why would I ask for something more? So I want us first and foremost to start dialoguing with our patients about redefining health. What is one of the best ways you can help them have this conversation with you? Or more importantly, know that you're open to this conversation. You should have within the practice a mission statement, something that says you want patient care to go one step above the type of patient care they've received in the past. And as such, you talk to your patients about lifestyle factors, quality of life factors, and most importantly, what they want out of their health. How do they define optimal health? By asking this question, you're able to figure out pretty quickly what they're willing to commit to. Based on what they tell you they want to achieve, you get better insight into their pain point. You get better insight into how important this is to them. We've got to be honest about it, right? The individual that says, I want to wake up without creaks in my knees and in my back has a very different motivational factor than the person that says, I want to make sure that I'm healthy enough to walk my daughter down the aisle when she gets married later this year. So what we've got is a spectrum of commitment. And what we're looking to do is to help inspire people to better habits. And better habits mean falling back on better systems, right? The goal is something in and of itself, to walk their daughter down the aisle or to wake up without any kind of creaks in their back, their knees, or their joints. And while neither one of those, I would say, is necessarily a more important goal, because it's all about their goal, right? I do want to make the point that we need to, as practitioners, remind them that that doesn't happen in a day. And so what are you willing to do each day? What are you willing to add to your morning the next morning? What are you willing to take away from your day? I often think about this from an educational standpoint. At the end of the day, I ask myself this question: what obstacle did I overcome? Which virtue did I acquire? And I want our patients perhaps to think of that in the realm of their health. What habit did they establish, right? And what obstacle did they overcome? We often talk to patients about bad habits and that they need to stop their bad habits. In fact, I want us to focus on that habit and ask why, so that we can get closer to their definition of health. And then talk to our patients about making a change based on that point, so that they are not just upright and vertical, right? Just waiting to fall horizontal, but instead are physically fit, mentally fit, spiritually and emotionally fit, metabolically fit, so that they are resistant to illness. And that is one of the ways that I try to help patients overcome or get beyond what we're going to do for the diagnosis. But in fact, what you're going to do and what systems or habits you're going to fall back on that help you achieve health or be resistant to illness. If you don't want to be in this space again, These are the steps we're going to take to get you out of that space. And these are the steps we're going to take to get you further away from that space so that we can redefine health for you. It is not simply the absence of disease, but wellness is quite literally being resistant to falling ill or subject to disease. And yet our patients are still defining their health based on compartments, based on mechanics. And we need to express to them that optimal wellness is on a spectrum. And that spectrum is not simply the absence of disease or the absence of a pain point, but in fact, some of the things that we think leave us in youth. So we should expect robust sexual function. We should expect from our bodies to give us a healthy mind and healthy movement. We should have a healthy and robust and optimal immune system, not an underactive immune system, an overwhelmed immune system, or a hyperactive immune system, but one that is working in our favor. And that, my friends, is not something we can compartmentalize. That is something that your mental, emotional well-being has something to do with. How well you manage stress, how well you sleep is intimately linked to the health of your immune system. How well you move is intimately linked to more than just lymphatics and intestinal health, but ultimately circulation, skin health, energy. All of these things come to come to play when we move well. Many individuals will think that it's normal to decay, that it's normal to decline or decompensate as they age. They almost expect that they're going to lose their energy. I've often spoken to individuals, if what's happening with age, the chronologic aspect of life, is the declining of certain hormones, what stops us from giving you the building blocks so that you either hold on to those hormones longer, hold on to them in a more meaningful amount for a longer period of time, so we have a greater area under the curve, or we just stop them from declining altogether. We know this is true for antioxidant systems and the immune system, as well as slow wave sleep. It all starts to decline as we age. And yet, there are ways that we can step in and intervene with nutrients, with exercise, with certain combinations of amino acids that can pull that back up and give us more youthful energy, more youthful hormone balance, more youthful mental, emotional, or mental cognitive well-being. We have all the ways to do this. If we've identified what started to decline, let's start thinking about the building blocks for those hormones, those antioxidants or detoxification systems, those energy pathways. And let's put those things back so that we can move ourselves up on the spectrum. In addition to that, it's important that we feel comfortable with the concept of whole body or planes of well-being. It is true that patients will present because something's wrong, and they've defined their own health through that diagnosis. What we want to do is talk more about, again, being metabolically fit, being resistant to disease or falling horizontal. And that means paying attention to more than just the symptom picture or presentation of the patient, but paying attention to their social structure. Are they in a loving relationship? Where are they at with their emotional health? And I want to go back because that loving relationship can be a non-romantic relationship in that they have a good support system. That leads to the emotional health and well-being. What are their daily stressors, right? What are their annual stressors? Is there an anniversary of a death of a loved one? Did something happen a year ago or 5 years ago? Is this an anniversary of a major event? Physical health is by and large the way many practitioners as well as patients define health. And yet it's so critically important to achieve physical health and well-being that we understand about environmental health. What types of uh, free radicals are surrounding us, what kind of occupational stressors are amongst us, what kind of environmental stressors are amongst us. And then there is that internal environment. Where are we at when it comes to self-care, into turning eyes into our own sense of well-being, right? In many meditative practices, they talk about meta love. And this is the true happiness that another person can wish upon a friend or an enemy, and can truly wish them well. And yet we often do not turn that same meta love towards ourselves. And then mental emotional well-being, or that mental health. That can be brain aging, that can be cognitive health, that can be improved academic or mental focus. It can also be, of course, brain volume. And all of this is connected. We know that exercise stimulates the brain in that we have better cognitive function as we age. That physical fitness does not just improve the physical body, but does improve the spiritual body, as well as creates community. And so I think it's important for us to move away from the compartmentalized ways that we talk about medicine and start focusing our dialogue on, we're going to address your acute needs now. And we're going to talk about creating a plan or a program for you that will address your long-term needs so that you age well, so that your brain stays very sharp, so that your physical body stays independent. I often will talk about the future so that patients understand kind of what they don't want to see happen in the future, and recognize that plan to protect them from that future is today. That the best time to, there's so much easier, as I like to say, to stay well than it is to get well. So we're going to deal with the acute need. It's imperative that they make sure that they're heard on that visit, but that they know that part of care also includes getting them not just out of that space, but further away from that space of illness. And that means part of their program includes diet, sleep, stress management, supporting a healthy gut barrier or microbiome, the importance of fitness, and keeping a healthy body weight as they age, body composition, the importance of brain games for cognitive function, recall, and recovery in the brain, that sex and intimate touch are important, and that immunity is linked to each one of these pillars of health. By and large, we're going to say today we focus on what's in front of us, but we play the long game, and we're going to set you up for longevity and well-being to assist patients towards this kind of health and move them out of the mindset that I take a pill, supplement even, I'm not even talking about medication, but that I only have to do this for a short period of time until I no longer feel this kind of discomfort, right? That we start to identify with our patients, what level of discomfort are they comfortable with, and why wouldn't they, or do they want to take it further where they are zero, where many of the physical and mental, emotional, hormonal ideals that they think are too far away from them, what are they willing to commit to get closer to that? Patient compliance and patient adherence are two different things. And unfortunately, as physicians and practitioners, we often think of compliance. You're going to show up for your next appointment. On the in-between, you're going to do what I've asked you to do, hopefully. That if you don't, there's going to be some kind of consequence to doing that. The individual that shows up on time for their appointment, the individual that makes sure to fill the prescription or take their supplement twice a day, the individual that is fearful of the consequence, that's a space that patients are in, and that's a fair place to be, but that is a compliant patient. They're simply doing what they're told, and they're not understanding the impact necessarily of their actions. They haven't found themselves, or they have not been educated yet on the concept of adherence, that they're going to not be the patient that keeps or that makes it to their next appointment, but the person that calls to make their next appointment, right? That doesn't wait for the birthday card, that doesn't wait for the annual reminder, but says instead, it's time for me to take care of my health. It's time for me to revisit my practitioner. So the adherent patient is the one that makes the appointment with you. The adherent patient is the one that says, is there more that we could have? I recognize you've prescribed this for me, and I will fill that prescription, or I will follow those directions. But is there something else I could be doing that would maximize my efforts? Is there something else I could be doing that would take me closer to my health goals and further away from the reason why I need to be here today? The adherent patient is the one that says, I don't want to be told the consequences. I recognize the consequences, right? Meaning that they're not just simply trying to avoid pain, but they understand that they will, in fact, take steps on a daily basis that will allow them to not get close to that point. And so what we're looking to do is, quite frankly, and in full transparency, explain that to patients, that there are two types of patients. And I often find that my adherent patients are the ones that have the highest quality of life, the ones that are looking to see if there's something else maybe they could subscribe to, whether it's through supplementation, through education, through movement, or classes here at the practice. And I want you to know that we offer those types of solutions if you're the type of patient that wants to be more proactive about their health. You know, it gets a little bit tricky, not dicey, but tricky sometimes, to be the diplomat that has to make sure that patients that are simply compliant are not shamed, and that they don't feel like they're less than quality patients, or that they're not doing what they need to do. Quite frankly, they're just looking to get out of pain. And we haven't found that other pain point, which is, what would life look like without this? What would you be willing to do? And we want that question to come from them by simply being our very best selves. Are you a product of the product? Do you yourself live with a level of exuberance or passion or vibrant energy? And where does that come from? Do you have patients that look at you and say, I want what you had for breakfast? That's what we're looking for. So sometimes patient adherence and moving an individual past the diagnosis and thinking about what more could I do is simply because they're looking at you and saying, I'll have what she's having, right? So to do this and to bridge the gap, we as practitioners need to do three things. We need to give our patients clear direction. These are the steps you're going to take. This is the amount of time we're going to be on this program. These are the times that we're going to measure and what we're going to measure. You got homework, which is the accountability component. It may be a health guide and journal. It may be simply having an ability to communicate with you through an app. It may be being able to send in progress reports, whether it's to you or someone on staff. It may be that you have accountability on the other side. Maybe you have created a 12-week email series that you simply send out to your patients that subscribe to your newsletter, subscribe to your wellness program, and they get reminders of how to be healthy, whether it's a little bit of a recipe, or it's a new breathing technique, or it's a 7 best steps to get your best night sleep. The options are endless, right? Of the things that we could do from an accountability standpoint to keep our patients engaged. That's really what accountability is creating for us, is an engaged patient. And the engaged patient becomes an adherent patient. They're no longer compliant. Ample motivation can come in different forms as well. I will say that many people, their motivation comes from fear of what they don't want to see happen, right? Fear of being back in that much pain again. And that's a sound motivator. But what I find is motivating is creating a program for a patient where they can see little rewards, if their phone giving them a text message makes dopamine centers light up, if sugar can make dopamine centers light up, what we're looking to do is to create a reward system where we can get dopamine to light up. And so this ample motivation, I find, comes from celebrating the wins. What do I mean by that? Let's say we've got a patient that wants to lose weight, and she or he is going to do really, really well. And 3 to 6 meals a day, right? They're going to, we'll say 3 meals a day and 2 snacks. They're going to do really well. And the first day, they're killing it. And the third day, they're killing it. And they're like, I'm really inspired to keep doing this. And in fact, motivated, maybe because they've had some better energy. They're like, I had no idea that drinking a gallon of water could give me this kind of energy. Maybe you've created some kind of accountability program where they have to check the list. And like I often will tell people that, one thing they need to check off their list is one bit of self-care. That 10 minutes you spend with yourself, that is no small task. That is no small thing what you just did for yourself. One chore, and that they have to mark off one chore. That means that tomorrow, guaranteed, if they can mark this off their list, they're going to wake up with less chaos in their life, right? And these are little rewards, little dopamine hits that they get, but it creates a big win. Now back to our patient that's overweight, and they are doing really well, and the weekend comes. Oh, the weekend came. I just completely did the wrong thing, right? And I didn't eat right. And they tell themselves, oh, I told myself I wasn't going to drink alcohol, or I told myself I wasn't going to have a piece of cake. Even if it was a small cake, I wasn't going to do it, but I did it, right? And so they wake up feeling awful, and they spend the next 2+ hours, maybe more, right, beating themselves up for not being perfect. And what we need to do for this motivation piece is we need to remind them of the number of times they nailed it, right? So you didn't eat right twice. You ate well, right, 18 other times this week. We do this very often. Patients do it, and I think we do it to ourselves. I think it's obviously a human trait that we don't let the mistake or the pain point sit for a minute, resonate with what that was, and then move past it and say, well, I did that, right? So I think ways that we can help our patients move past that is to motivate them by celebrating the little wins, right? So let's say you were supposed to exercise and you only got 10 minutes, and I told you that you really need to get 20 minutes of work in for this to start moving where you want it to go. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the 10 minutes that you did get in, right, is 10 minutes more than the 0 minutes you got in last week. And that's a win that I think is worth paying attention to, right? So we need to give our patients ample motivation. And I get it. You're not going to be there after every exercise or every dietary mistake. And so what we need to do is help our patients identify these places in their health. We need to help our patients recognize, but I have been doing well, right? Because what does that do? That creates an adherent patient, the one that is self-aware, the one that says, I'm doing this, and I know I'm doing this, and I'm either going to continue doing this or I'm going to do a full stop, right? they become accountable, not to you, but to themselves. I recently had a situation where this is exactly what happened, where I agreed for myself that there would be no cheat meals. And there are these wonderful things called OPC3 chews. And while cheat meals are not necessarily a concern for me, maybe OPC3 chews are. And so, um, but I made this deal that there would be no cheat meals. I was going to follow a very strict diet for a period of time. And there's these OPC3 chews, and I look at those and I say, well, that's a supplement, right? Like, that's not a cheat. And I had to be accountable to myself, where by anybody else's definition, they'd be like, no, that's a supplement, right? But I know in my head, that's a Starburst. I know in my head, that's a Jolly Rancher. I know in my head, that's a piece of candy for me. Sure, it's a healthy piece of candy, but I know in my head, it's a piece of candy. And so it would be a cheat for me. And so these types of things, recognizing the space that they're in, recognizing the little wins, can also help them recognize that very small wrinkle in the rug that they might trip over. And they become not just more self-aware, but accountable to themselves. And that brings them closer to patient adherence. It ultimately brings them closer to habit, right? Because you can inspire somebody, but inspiration is short-lived. You can show someone, you can help someone get motivated with little rewards, but even that will require a daily activity, a daily system, a daily habit. And this may, for many people, start with discipline, which is why I'm not afraid to talk about those pain points, why I think it's appropriate to talk about where you don't want to be, because that will ultimately be the thing that creates discipline and then ultimately habit. And if you're with me on this, you will start to create passionate patients that are passionate about their own health. So much so they'll start talking to other people about their health and how good they feel. So we're also going to flip the script and get our patients to stop complaining about the things they don't like in their life and start to recognize that space and those small wins, so they start talking about the things that excite them in their life. And by doing this, by creating that kind of passion in a patient, we've ultimately created a supportive environment, an environment where when they do make a mistake or do not stay perfect or adherent, that there's a space for them to come back and say, well, you're living your life in integrity. That's what life is like. And we're going to move into the next day and we're going to do it again. You imagine it's going to be easier the next time, right? I have to imagine it's going to be easier. The next concept I want to bring up in moving patients past the diagnosis and into adherence, right, is talking to them again about the things that they don't want in later decades of life. Our gonad function starts to diminish. Brain and cognitive function starts to decline. Musculoskeletal well-being, energy, movement, right? That tends to come at a cost to us. In fact, age is a cost to us, but it is a relative cost. Depends on what that whole idea of what you get in, what you put out, or you get out what you put in, right? And so what we want to do when someone says, do I need to be on supplementation forever? And I say, there's going to be certain things that you do always. Essential fatty acids cannot be created in the body, and yet they're critical for health. And as we age, we only become more reliant on their anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular, blood sugar, and brain balancing benefits. So omega-3 fatty acids are something you're going to do on a regular basis to maintain your gonadal health, to maintain your cognitive health and well-being, to maintain joint health, flexibility, and limit inflammation that's associated with the aging process, right? I'm going to talk about the things that they want more of: a better night's sleep, a better way to handle stress, an improved body composition. I'm going to talk about the things that they didn't come in to talk to me about: their sexual function, their quality of life. While they were talking about their swollen knee, I'm going to talk about what it takes to have a healthy immune system, a healthy inflammatory response, where they heal from that faster. And some of the side benefits are a better sex life, better cognitive function, more energy throughout the day, taking up less space. I always like to talk to people about looking better and performing better naked, right? These are not the quality of life factors they'd come into the office to talk about, but they are the ones that I'm going to link their activity to. If you do this when you leave here, these are some of the things that you can expect, right? We're going to play that long game that I had referred to earlier. I also think practitioners that want to move patients into a more adherent patient model, a more preventative model, one where the patient is asking, what more can I do, need to be reminded, as we are often as practitioners concerned that we will be perceived as salespeople. We're concerned that we will over recommend. We are concerned that maybe our patients could do this a different way. All of those things are valid concerns, but I'm going to encourage you not to stop short of making the recommendation. If it is a sound recommendation, if it's a recommendation that is based on what you believe will move them forward towards their health goals, then it is, it is an ethical recommendation. I think we often as practitioners need to be reminded that supplement users are on the rise, or supplement usage is on the rise. And that better than 70% of individuals already use supplementation. And that they love the idea of, again, going back to that, what did you have for breakfast, or I'll have what you're having type of ideology or idealism that we often, if we live a healthy lifestyle, can create in our patients, that we understand that they are looking to achieve better health, and that they recognize that supplementation is one of the ways that they can do it. And they would like to have their trusted health care providers advice on what supplements are best. And I'm going to give you my advice here, is that if a patient's already taking an omega-3 fatty acid, it's not immediately necessary to change their omega-3 fatty acid. You'll do better to congratulate them, again, the little win, congratulate them on taking that step towards better health, that you would be interested in looking at the label to make sure that they're getting enough omegas, or that they're getting enough coenzyme Q10, or that their B vitamins are a proper form for their metabolic needs. And if they in fact meet or cut the mustard, because there are good products out there, that again, you celebrate the little win. I've run into practitioners that feel like, well, don't I want to sell them my product? And nope, what you actually want at the root of this is for them to be on an omega, on a vitamin D. Because what I would like you to appreciate is when we allow them the reward of finding that good product and enjoying what they're doing there. It's one, not to say that they won't say, but do you have something else? Because they would like your advice. It also opens up a dialogue about the things, and this is so important, about the things that they're not doing. Congratulating them on a vitamin D, congratulating them on an omega is very powerful, and allowing them to use the one that they've already built a brand affinity for. I'm fine with that if there's nothing wrong with it. You may at times with an omega have to tell them you'll need to take more of this to get what would be considered a beneficial dose. But if you like this product, this is how I would suggest that you do that. But it opens up a dialogue to then say, but what I notice is that you're not getting a vitamin D, or you're not getting a coenzyme Q10, or what you're not doing is taking what is so important to take with an omega-3 fatty acid, which is also an antioxidant. And now what you've done is you've created a space about what is missing, but what is necessary, because you've just created trust by encouraging them to keep the brand that they already had. You are encouraging, you are creating an environment that is exactly the one that you want if you're a type of healthcare provider that's concerned that you'll be perceived as a salesperson, right? What you're doing is making the recommendation that they're on a vitamin D, on an omega, and that you have what you have vetted to be high quality products available there for their convenience. Should they go somewhere else, that's fine. You'd like to be able to continue the conversation about what may be missing. These are powerful places to be, because it's all about perception and making sure that we're making the very best recommendations. But most providers are shocked to find out how many of their patients are already taking supplements, are already willing to spend their healthcare dollars on supplementation. And then what you have at your back, of course, is the fact that we use these clinically evidenced ingredients. So curcumin, asteryl astaxanthin, quatrefolate in our B9, sensoryl ashwagandha for athletic endurance, for thyroid, for libido, sun active and non-constipating iron, Wellmune for our isotonic immune product, a yeast beta-glucan, and of course, pycnogenol, one of the most clinically evidenced ingredients in the natural marketplace. You may also look to motivate patients towards adherence by giving them guideposts. Now, regardless, you're going to want to give them guideposts, what you expect. Remember, we talked about being clear with your messaging, right? Making sure they understood what was expected, and giving them good guidance. GeneSnip is something that gives them a higher level of accountability, because you're going to put them in a program, maybe TLS Select, which puts them in a week by week program, something structured to keep them well. It also creates a wellness community for them, and that's a powerful place to be. As a practitioner, it ups your game, because now you have a way to say, we're going to identify the type of diet you should be on. We're going to be able to build your macros, not just your micros. We're going to know about the best type of plate composition for you as it relates to protein, fat, and carbohydrates. It's going to help us prioritize lifestyle changes that you need to make. It will select ingredients or select formulations, supplements for you, so that you never feel like you're wasting money, but these will be based on your genetic blueprint. We find that for practitioners and patients alike, that the development of a wellness track, a wellness program, initiates for them an incredible confidence in what they are doing. It initiates an incredible confidence in what you're doing. And it ultimately does something that we started to talk about at the beginning, which is a customizable recommendation. It's not just a customizable recommendation, it's a recommendation that allows the patient to feel like, I have an asset here in the practice. This is the only place I can do it. It's unique to me, and it adds an incredible amount of value. At the end of the day, patients are looking for answers, more than medical reasons, more so than the medical reasons, the reasons why they presented to the practice. We find that patients are expecting that there'll be big changes in their metabolism when they take these steps towards wellness. What's important is to let them know the length of time that it takes to make changes. What's important is engaging in healthy behaviors. This is what I mean. We're going to get you out of that place, but we're also going to take measures to get you further away from that space, right? Even with traditional or proven, are asking for a supplement regimen, an alternative approach. What are their alternatives? They're looking for non-drug items, and more practitioners are doing the same. They have patients that don't yet qualify for a recommendation or a prescription intervention. And they're kind of lost thinking, well, what should I recommend then? And so Nutrimetrics and these adherent protocols can be very powerful in helping you do that. And ultimately, what I really want people to leave with is understanding that supplements should be used in addition to an already healthy diet. I'm not saying this to you as a practitioner, I'm saying this to your patient. It's absolutely critical that they understand that supplementation is in part or is in combination with a healthy diet, taking steps to change their sleep routine and improve it if that's necessary, stress habits and exercise habits. There is strong scientific evidence that supplementation optimizes health, but we also don't want to encourage our patients to start on their back foot and think that all they need to do is supplementation. We need to start educating our patients to motivate towards adherence. We want to take those steps, and these are some of the ways that I do it in practice, and I hope that you'll find benefit from that. Until I get to see you next time, go be healthy, go be brilliant.